We don't always see the truth when we're standing too close to it. Sometimes the red flags aren't waving in the wind. They're lying quietly at our feet, waiting for us to notice. I want you to imagine a woman. She's smart, kind, and deeply loving. She gives freely, hoping her love will be enough to fill the empty spaces in a man who never seems fully present. She tells herself, he's just busy. He'll change. He loves me. He just doesn't know how to show it. But love isn't a puzzle we have to solve. And if a man is using a woman, he will show it, not in grand betrayals, but in small, consistent ways. Love is about balance, about the beautiful, unspoken rhythm of giving and receiving. When a relationship is healthy, both people pour into each other. It's not about keeping score, but about knowing deep down that if you ever needed a soft place to land, the other person would be there, arms open. But when a man is using a woman, this balance is nowhere to be found. He takes your time, your energy, your affection, your patience, but rarely gives anything back. It doesn't start in obvious ways. It begins in the small moments that are easy to overlook. Maybe at first he forgets to ask how your day was, but you tell yourself he's just tired. Then you notice that you're always the one making plans, always the one reaching out first, always the one doing the emotional labor of keeping the connection alive. And then one day you realize something. You are carrying this relationship alone. It's in the way he expects you to be there for him when he's struggling, but when you need support, he's suddenly too busy or not in the right headspace. It's in how he soaks up your love, your kindness, your effort, but doesn't extend the same in return. It's in the way he lets you give and give, knowing you will, because that's who you are. And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Because when you are a giver, when you love deeply, you believe that if you just love a little harder, if you just hold on a little longer, he will wake up and see your worth. But love should never feel like an uphill battle. Love should never feel like something you have to convince someone to reciprocate. A man who truly loves you doesn't just take. He notices when you're tired and steps in. He gives, not just in grand gestures, but in the everyday moments that matter. He listens when you need to be heard. He supports you the way you support him. He shows up not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. If a man is always on the receiving end, if he treats your love like an ATM he can withdraw from without ever making a deposit, he is not loving you, he is using you, and you deserve better. Because love, real love, is not one-sided. It is not exhausting. It is not built on the back of one person while the other coasts. You deserve a love that fills you, not one that empties you. Words are powerful. They can make us feel seen, cherished, and deeply loved. A man who knows how to use words well can make a woman believe anything. Promises of forever, whispers of devotion, beautifully strung together sentences that sound like poetry. But words without action are just noise. When a man is using a woman, one of the clearest signs is that his words and actions do not align. He tells you what you want to hear, but he never follows through. He says he loves you, but his actions don't show care. He says he values you, but he doesn't treat you like a priority. At first, it's subtle. Maybe he tells you he misses you, but he never actually makes time to see you. Maybe he tells you how important you are to him, but he keeps you waiting for a call, waiting for a text, waiting for him to show up for you the way you show up for him. And when you start to notice the gap between his words and his actions, you begin to make excuses for him. Maybe he's just overwhelmed with work. Maybe he's not good at expressing himself. Maybe I'm expecting too much. But deep down, there's a small voice inside you that knows the truth. Love is not about the perfect words. It's about consistency. If he truly cared, his actions wouldn't need explanations. They would speak for themselves. Think about this. When someone genuinely wants to be with you, you don't have to wonder if they do. When a man values you, his effort makes that clear. He doesn't just say, I'll be there for you. He shows up. He doesn't just say, I'll change. He actually does the work. He doesn't just tell you he loves you. He proves it through the way he treats you, respects you, and honors your heart. But when a man is using you, he relies on words alone. He keeps you hooked with just enough affection, just enough sweet talk to make you stay. He gives you hope that one day things will be different, and that hope keeps you hanging on. Here's the hard truth. A man who truly cares will make sure you feel safe in his love. You won't have to decode mixed signals. You won't have to wonder if he means what he says. You won't have to constantly question where you stand with him. If a man's words and actions don't align, believe his actions, because love isn't spoken, it's shown. Have you ever noticed that some people have perfect timing, not in a good way, but in a way that makes you feel like a convenience rather than a priority? A man who is using a woman will only show up when it benefits him. He doesn't check in just to see how you're doing. He doesn't make an effort when everything in his life is going well. But the moment he needs something, attention, comfort, money, validation, or even just a distraction, suddenly he's there, acting as if he never left. At first, it might not seem obvious. Maybe he's sweet when he texts you out of the blue. Maybe he apologizes for being distant and promises to do better. Maybe he reminds you of all the good times you've had together, making you believe that this time things will be different. But pay attention to the pattern. Does he only call when he's lonely? Does he only text when he's bored? Does he only ask to see you when it's convenient for him? A man who truly cares doesn't just show up when he needs something. He's there always, through the good and the bad, through the easy and the hard. He doesn't disappear when life is good and come running back when he needs a safe place to land. A man who is using a woman treats her like an emotional safety net. When his world is falling apart, he knows she will be there. He knows she will listen, comfort him, and make him feel better. But once he's back on his feet, where does he go? Does he stick around and pour the same love and care back into her? Or does he vanish until the next time he needs something? It's a painful realization when you start to see this pattern. You replay every interaction, every late night call, every tearful apology, and realize they were never about you. They were about what you could provide for him. A man who loves you will make an effort to be present even when he doesn't need anything from you. He will check in just because he wants to hear your voice. He will be there on the days you need him, not just the days he needs you. He will see you as a partner, not a backup plan. If he only shows up when he needs something, it's time to ask yourself, what happens when I stop giving? What happens when I stop answering? Will he fight for me, or will he just move on to the next person who will fill the space I once did? A man who loves you will show up because he wants to, not because he has to. And you deserve someone who stays, not just when it's convenient, but always. Love should feel like a safe place to land. It should bring comfort, peace, and joy, even in the hard moments. Love is not perfect, but it should never feel like a weight you are constantly carrying alone. When a man is using a woman, love doesn't feel like love at all. It feels exhausting. Instead of feeling safe, you feel anxious. Instead of feeling cherished, you feel neglected. Instead of feeling like you are being poured into, you feel like you are constantly pouring out with nothing left for yourself. At first, it might not seem so obvious. Maybe you tell yourself that relationships take work, that love is about sacrifice, that if you just give a little more, he will finally see how much you care. But over time, the exhaustion sets in. You start to notice that you are always the one making the effort. You are always the one fixing things, smoothing things over, and trying to hold everything together. You feel it in the way you stay up late, waiting for a text that never comes. You feel it in the way you second guess yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or asking for too much. You feel it in the way you suppress your own needs just to keep the peace. And the hardest part, he doesn't even notice because he isn't the one carrying the weight. You are. A man who is using a woman will take and take, never stopping to consider what it's doing to her. He will expect her to be his emotional support, his safe space, his constant source of love and care. But when she needs that same love in return, he will fall short every time. Love should never leave you feeling empty. It should not make you question your worth. It should not make you feel like you are constantly reaching for someone who won't meet you halfway. A man who truly loves you will replenish you. He will listen when you speak, support you when you struggle, and be present, not just when it benefits him, but because he genuinely wants to be. Love is about reciprocity, about giving and receiving. If you are the only one doing the giving, that is not love. That is self-sacrifice. So ask yourself, does this relationship make me feel lighter or does it feel like a burden? Do I feel loved? Or do I feel like I am constantly proving my worth? You deserve a love that fills you, not one that drains you. And when the right love comes, you will know, because love should never feel like something you have to fight for alone. Commitment is not just about labels or long-term plans. It's about showing up, taking responsibility, and making someone feel secure in a relationship. When a man truly loves and values a woman, he does not leave her questioning where she stands. He does not treat the relationship like something temporary or conditional. Instead, he makes it clear through his actions that he is all in. But when a man is using a woman, one of the biggest signs is his inability or unwillingness to commit. He avoids serious conversations about the future. He keeps things vague, saying things like, let's just see where this goes, or I'm not ready for anything serious right now. Yet at the same time, he doesn't want to let you go. He enjoys the benefits of having you in his life, your love, your support, your time, without having to fully invest in you in return. At first, you may try to be patient. You may believe that if you just wait a little longer, he will be ready. Maybe he has past wounds. Maybe he's afraid of getting hurt. Maybe he's just not sure what he wants. And so you shrink yourself, lower your expectations, and tell yourself that if you love him enough, he will eventually see your worth. But time passes and nothing changes. He still won't define the relationship. He still won't plan a future with you. And when you try to express your feelings, he makes you feel like you're the problem. If you ask for clarity, he says you're pressuring him. If you express your needs, he says you're being needy or dramatic. If you ask why he doesn't introduce you to his friends or family, he says he just isn't ready. It's always about his timing, his comfort, his needs, never yours. A man who avoids commitment also avoids accountability. When he hurts you, he refuses to take responsibility. Instead of apologizing sincerely, he deflects, makes excuses, or even blames you. If he cancels plans last minute, he says you're being unreasonable for being upset. If he ignores your messages for days, he says he was just busy. If he flirts with other women, he says you're overreacting. If you call him out on his behavior, he turns it around on you, making you question whether you're the problem. This cycle of emotional manipulation leaves you confused and exhausted. You start doubting yourself. You wonder if you're asking for too much, if you're being too sensitive, if maybe, just maybe, you should lower your expectations. But here's the truth. A man who truly cares does not make you question your worth. He does not avoid accountability when he makes mistakes. He does not keep you in a state of uncertainty, waiting for a commitment that will never come. A real man, a man who loves you, will take responsibility for his actions. He will respect your feelings. He will communicate openly. He will not make you beg for reassurance, for clarity, for effort. If he avoids commitment and accountability, he is not protecting his heart. He is protecting his freedom to use you on his terms. And that is not love. You deserve someone who meets you where you are, someone who is willing to build something real with you, because love should not be a guessing game. It should be clear, intentional, and reciprocated, always.